What is up, guys? Jose here, and welcome to my YouTube channel. So, why you should connect with nature more often. So as you can see, I'm a nature baby. I'm in the mountains near my hometown in Spain, and it took me about 30 minutes to get here. But when you're here, most of the noise of the civilized world is gone, even though I can hear traffic a bit further away. It's it's probably the best I can find to really reconnect with silence and the wisdom of nature. And so why should you connect more with nature, and why should you spend more time in nature as opposed to being surrounded by noise and by just really random stuff that is not natural to who we are, right? We live in a world where everywhere you go, there's noise. There's cars, traffic, there's construction going on, there's people yelling. If you're inside your house, some people I know just have the TV on for the whole day. Like, even if they're not watching TV, they just put it on to have something, have some noise, some sound going on, something going on in the house. People going to work, they put on the radio or they put on music. You hear the train, again, you hear people talking all the time. And so we're left without a single moment of silence. And I'm not just talking about silence in terms of the absence of sound. I mean inner silence. Time for us to spend with our thoughts, with our feelings, without being distracted, without being stimulated all the time by information, be it in the form of music, be it in the form of, books, TV, podcasts, whatever, talking to another person. There's nothing wrong with that in and of itself, but what is far from natural is the fact that we spend receiving all that information on a daily basis, all day long. And our brains are not designed to be receiving information 24 hours a day, 24/7, okay? So what happens when you come to a place like this? You get into nature and you leave your phone at home, or you leave it in the car. I don't care where you leave it, but don't bring it with you. What happens is, maybe for the first few minutes, maybe the first 10, 15, 20 minutes, you feel a little bit uneasy because you're used to being stimulated all the time by information from the outside, and suddenly you're just left with nature, with what is. And there is not much happening if you walk into a place like this, at least from a surface level. Because when you start noticing, when you start paying attention to the silence, to the trees, to the birds, the animals, the wind, you start noticing that, in fact, there is a lot going on. Matter of fact, there are thousands, if not millions, of little insects or whatever, just walking around in the trees, on the ground, beneath, the bushes and all that, under the rocks. Plants and trees are growing. Maybe they're growing at such a slow pace that you don't notice it, that it's not noticeable when you look at a tree. But it is happening nonetheless. And so by living in a world where our minds are so incredibly overstimulated, we have lost the ability to connect with our true nature. Because when you come into nature, when you walk into a park, when you go into the mountains, right? You go to the beach or whatever is near where you live. Maybe it's the desert. Doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be this huge, natural place. It's just a moment of silence. A moment where there's absence of just random information, random input forced into your mind, into your brain. And so when you notice that this slow pace of life, the trees are growing, the birds are flying around, the insects crawl around, you see that there's another way of living. And in fact, if you spend enough time in this pace, you start calming down. You start adjusting to this natural pace that your body was designed for, and that feels much more natural to you. You start to think more clearly. You start to feel more at peace. You start to feel happier. And there's lots of theories that obviously one thing is that when there's silence, your brain can actually recover from all that information. So on a physical, neurological level, there's a lot happening. But it's not only that. It's also the energy, just of nature. The absence of all this toxic environment and just you being in your natural environment that gives us the chance to reconnect. And that silence is not only working on a physical level, on a mental level, you start remembering who you are. You're forced to listen to your own thoughts and to your own emotions, right? You become a better human being. Why? Because you're living the way you're supposed to live. Now, I'm not saying go live in a hut or in a tent somewhere in the mountains to live this way. You can live in what is called the civilized world, in the modern society. But I invite you to, if you live in a big city or if you're constantly being surrounded by, just random things all the freaking time, make it a habit to spend a few moments every single week, preferably every day, but I know that's not possible for everyone. But every single week, just spend some time in nature, spend some time in silence, and you'll see that it will change your life. So that is it for this video. I'll see you in the next one.